Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Cheers, I will drink some. This is in lieu of the Sunday chat. Difference is on Monday and it's going to be brief. I've had a long weekend and at the end of it I ended up incredibly tired. The Saturday, as I said, was the Orchid Society meeting, preceded by a committee meeting. So that's like 12 till 5 with an hour's drive either side. And I had to set up the complete system for demonstration purposes because we bought a new laptop, which I dealt with. I've donated my projector, which nobody'd seen before. And I said that all of this lot can connect to the sound system as well, so that if we ever get a speaker not turn up or something like that, you know, a catastrophe where we've got everybody sat down and nothing to do, I will make arrangements for some of my suitable YouTube videos to be on the laptop, and obviously that can project up on the screen, connect up to the sound system, press play, go and sit down. It's something that's better than nothing, if you see what I mean. And they wanted that demo, so I had to set all that, which means lugging it all out to the car, lugging it into the building, setting it up, packing it up, bringing it back out to the car, unloading it when I get home and putting it all away. So I was tired, and then yesterday, Sunday, I went to the Heathrow Bonsai show. That wasn't a full day, but again it was an early start. You know, I was on the road sort of just after 7, and it was about 80 miles, something like that, and a lot of it was motorway. So it wasn't a tedious journey, apart from about a third of the motorway was thick fog. You know, you've got eyes out on stalks, driving at a snail's pace, following the set of lights in front. And then they change lanes and you find the idiot in front of you now hasn't got any lights on in the thick fog. So back well away from them. Anyway, so yeah, I got there, had something to eat, and they were letting people in early. Unlike the last big show I went to, there was parking quite near the building, so I didn't have the last one I went to, the K2 Expo. There was no parking left. I got there an hour and a half early and there was no parking, 0 spaces left. The only spaces were up this forest track with little lay-bys every now and again. So about a mile up this forest track, which I then had to turn around and walk back. And some of the people had to do that. They had stuff to carry. You know, I didn't. I was lucky, just my camera. So there was parking, it was okay. I got some breakfast when I got there, which was nice. And then had a look around the show. I've filmed a lot. For those who are interested, the video will go on the Bonsai channel, obviously not on this channel. But I'll put that together as a sequence, because I appreciate it's a bit like an orchid show. If you're really interested, then it's, oh look, there's a so-and-so, so-and-so. Oh, look at that marvellous so-and-so, so-and-so. If you're sort of interested but not at that level, then it's, oh, there's a pretty orchid. Oh, there's another pretty orchid. Well, blow me, there's another pretty orchid. There's lots of pretty orchids and your interest will wane. You know, if you've got 20 minutes of one after the other like that, it's just too much for some people. And it will be the same with the bonsai trees. Ooh, here's a bonsai tree. Ooh, look, there's another one. Well, that one looks a bit like the one before. Well, that one's different. Oh, there's another bonsai tree. And you get fed up very quickly. And I can't leave the soundtrack on because the mics on the camera are picking up people's private conversation. Well, they shouldn't talk so loud, should they? Public place. And then you get those that shout on their phone. That goes back to the old days when you had to use the phone like this. And you picked it up and it was heavy, you go, hello! Otherwise nobody heard you. You don't need to shout on a mobile phone. Ever. Oh, I've got a poor signal. Shouting doesn't make your signal better. Oh dear. Anyway, there'll be a video of some of the show. I won't put all the clips up. There's far too many. I thought if I film almost everything, then I can pick and choose. You know, those that are in nice sharp focus, the specimen trees and stuff. I'll put that up on the Bonsai channel. And with all that kerfuffle for the Orchid Society meeting, with all the sound system and everything, making sure I had everything, making sure I had the leads to connect everything together, which were mine. I had to dig them out of the music room so that I had enough to fit it all together. The society will buy leads now they know it all works. You know, well, I'll buy them and I'll get reimbursed. But as such, I forgot my camera, so I didn't film anything at the Orchid Society meeting. Which is a shame. There were some nice plants there, but you know, that's how it goes. And the talk was, this goes back to what I've just said. It was one of these PowerPoint presentations where it was a visit to Sulawesi, which is Borneo, I think, right that way anyway, you know, sort of Far East, jungly type, mountainous sort of area. And so we had some nice shots of the area, showing the lake and, you know, the mountains in the distance, and then we had sort of 35 minutes of here's an orchid, here's another orchid. And a PowerPoint presentation like that, it doesn't matter how interesting it is, I lose interest in that quite quickly, especially as there were quite a few orchids that were actually unidentified, potentially even new species, but nobody there to actually do the register, you know, the actual necessary documentation and everything. But you know, there were some interesting orchids, but a lot of them weren't in bloom. You know, you have a guide when you go to those sort of places. They know where everything is. They know what's in flower. You know, they take you to those places, and everybody takes a picture. You go, oh, another orchid. And then you all trundle off again to another tree, and you go, oh, it's another orchid. But yeah, so that was the talk. It was interesting enough, but as I said, a PowerPoint presentation for me can get tedious very quickly. It's just a picture of an orchid, there's nothing moving, you've got a guy's voice, you're dependent on the guy doing the talk having an interesting voice really, you know, with some ups and some downs and a joke here and there perhaps, you know. So that was that. And I've had my house visit today. I get an inspector comes round with a marvellous camera. It looks like a little phone, and it lives on the top of a tripod, and it takes a 180-degree picture in both directions, and then software puts it together and turns it into a 3D view, so that you can actually view the whole room and go up, go down. So that had to be done in every room, so obviously I had to have a bit of a tidy up beforehand. Not too much, I'm not an untidy person. But what's annoyed me a little bit is I've got a black mark on the garden, quite a bad one, very poor. And it's based on, the annoying thing, it's based on all the dead leaves and everything like that. Well, they're there from before I moved in. This garden wasn't cleaned up properly when I moved in. This garden wasn't pruned back properly when I moved in. But anyway, I got a black mark on that and an insistence on doing something about it. So I'll make a point of catching Matey next door and ask him about his gardener friend that is supposedly going to come and do it. Now I was going to wait till October, but a couple of weeks isn't really going to make a lot of difference. And if some of the bushes start to regrow, they'll soon stop because it's going to get cold soon. So I'll just have to live with that. But yeah, you know, I explained to the lady I wanted to leave everything this year to find out what I had and see what's growing where, what's vigorous, what's slow growing, so that at the end of the year I could make a decision on how to prune things. And you know, blah, blah, it didn't go down. No, not interested. It doesn't look good. It's poor. You know, so you need to do something about it. Which is a shame, but I'll have to get on with it. As I say, there's too much for my daughter and me to do. But all of these lower bushes, like when you get the view out to the bird feeder, all of those lower bushes there, I can go over those with the shears. They don't need secateurs at each branch done individually. I can just go over those with the shears. And if I get all the bonsai clutter out of the way, that can just all be swept up along with the leaves and stuck in a bag to go up the recycling centre. So I can do that stuff myself, and that's not too strenuous, not going to do me back in or anything like that. But it's annoying that I'm basically clearing up stuff that either the previous tenant should have done, or more importantly, the agent paid people to come and sort this garden out ready for me to move in, and they didn't do a very good job. And I'm now getting the blame for that, basically. Anyway, I'll get it done. And I mean, as far as next year is concerned, I'm determined to keep on top of the garden and keep it looking nice. I want it to be a place that I want to be in. Not a place I keep looking out the window thinking, look at all that work to do. But part of the tidy up is to get my bonsai staging made so that all this ramshackle bits and bobs out here to keep the bonsai off the ground basically can all be cleared away then, and everything made to look nice and tidy. But, as I say, it'll all take time, and now that we've had some rain, these gravel beds out here are going to be a constant pain. And I may go back to the idea of actually putting a chemical on them, because where we've had the hot dry weather, the weeds died. I mean, I did actually go round with the hoe and cut a lot of them off at ground level sort of thing, but they just look like a bed of corn now, with all the spring corn coming up. Obviously seeds have dropped in that gravel, and we've had the rain now, they've germinated and they're all starting to grow, and it's all turning back to green. And it's supposed to be a gravel bed, there shouldn't be any green in there at all. So I think I might have to get the chemical out, because again, last time I hoed those to cut down the weeds, I mean some of them have got like 2 foot tall. Grows like a weed? Well, that's where the expression comes from. You look down and there's a little shoot, and you turn your back and it's 6 inches tall. A week later it's 2 foot tall. So I'm going to have to keep on top of that as well. Those gravel beds will only look nice if they haven't got any green in them, otherwise they're always going to look tatty. So I need to deal with that, and I may well start that this week. As I said, the chemical I've got, it goes on with the watering can. It's a sachet, you put it in the watering can and it dissolves, and you water the area where you want the weed control. It kills any weeds that are there and puts some sort of film onto the area that stops things germinating. So it's supposed to keep things weed free for quite a long period of time, and I only need it to kill the weeds off and stop any more germinating before winter gets here. I can think about it again in spring, do it, And there's 4 gravel beds out there, and my idea is to do them one at a time. And Elvis doesn't go out in the evening, or very rarely. Mojo does. He likes to go out for his evening walk around sort of thing, and just check the weather forecast, make sure it's not going to rain overnight, and go and water one of those beds with the chemical after Mojo's had his walk around. And then the cats aren't going to go out until the next day, and by then it'll have dried off. And it says harmless to pets and all that sort of stuff once it's dry. Yeah, so it's not the sort of thing I want the cat walking on and getting wet on his paws, if you know what I mean. So it'll have to be controlled, and we'll see how we go. But we're supposed to have, what's today, Monday? I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow and Wednesday we're supposed to be potentially having some torrential rain along the south coast. Well, you know what they're like. It doesn't always happen, does it? But there's no point in wasting my time and effort and the chemical itself doing one of those beds if it's going to pour with rain, because then it'll just wash it away. So that's the idea, but I'm going to have to get on top of the garden. I mentioned about the roof. I said this moss is not my moss. That wasn't cleared off before I came, And my idea is that once the sun stops hitting the roof, I'll take the shade netting off and I will clean all the moss off the roof and clean out the gutters. The idea being that I would like to use the barrel round the corner. Oh, that'd be good, you know, so I've got a brownie point for that. But I got it marked down as poor on the grounds that she has to do the report based on what it looks like now, you know, not what my plans are, because I may say marvellous things about what I'm going to do and not do any of it, you know, what some people are like. But yeah, so I got behind with my watering over the weekend. I just watered all the mounts and the holy clay pots and fed those, because those are the ones that need the most frequent watering. And 4 days is pushing your luck with the mounts, you know, it is still growing season after all. And then tomorrow I'll go around the pots, because I won't have an interruption tomorrow. Like today I had this lady coming round at 10 o'clock, sort of right in the middle of the day. And I messed up my food delivery as well. In my head I thought I had my food delivery this afternoon, Monday afternoon, was next Monday. Because you know, obviously I have to make room for all the food coming in and everything. So yeah, I've got a free day tomorrow, and I'm going to make that a leisurely go round the pots sort of thing, get those all watered. It's been a while since they had water, and they'll get fed as well. I actually upped the feed for the mounts and the holy clay pots today. I bumped it up to 190. I've been doing it around 120 to 140. Well, I went up to 190 today. That was not planned. The sprinkle must have been metric instead of imperial. When I measured it, I thought it was 190. I thought, blow it. It can go as it is. I mean, I could have added more water and weakened it, but I thought, no, we'll just let it go. I mean, there was a time when I was feeding the mounts at sort of 250 to 300. But I think a lot of that was wasted. I don't think a lot of it got used. You know, the plants can only take on board so much. And there's quite a few that aren't actually vigorously growing at the moment. They're ticking over. I mean, if you take my Dendrobium lindleyi, for instance, that's put out its new growths, it's done its roots, and it's borderline finishing off for the season now, even though it's only September. And yet I've got other Dendrobiums like my Hercoglossum that are still pushing out new growths in September, you know, but then that does grow on through the winter. So yeah, I'll show you. Not long ago I was looking at the plants and I picked up the two Vandas and thought, oh, they've got spikes. Well, that wasn't that long ago. It's getting bigger. Now that looks like it's only going to have one bud. Don't be fooled. It expands and extends. So these are the little bracts that will go around the first bud, and then it will get a bit longer and it'll do it again and then again and again. Now it might not be a brilliant spike this year, but the blooms on that one are so big, it only needs 3 or 4 and it'll be a massive spike. And I haven't got to worry about the pegging it down like I used to around the other house, because it was up near the roof. The spike has a tendency to grow upwards, and then it slightly arches, and then as the buds expand and get big, they get heavy and it pulls the spike over in an arch. Well, round the other house it would have touched the roof and burnt, you know. So what I used to do was I used to put clothes pegs along the length of it to arch it over early before the buds did it on their own, sort of thing. So I used to arch it over unnaturally, so that when it had finished it all looked natural. But you don't need to do that this time. You know, where I'm keeping it, it's more than enough light while it's blooming, so yes, and it's nowhere near the roof. So I'm going to muck about with that this time. And yeah, there's not much else going on. I've got a cattleya with 2 buds on that haven't blasted yet. And you know, there's a few things looking like they might push a spike out. And there's a few things like my Cattleya cernua is dormant at the moment. That spends the summer doing nothing. So that doesn't get watered every time. That gets missed out. So I don't want to soak it when it's not growing. and that will come into growth soon, and then I can start watering and feeding that again. So yeah, there's some things, my Tolumnias aren't doing very well. The Cattleya types on the mounts, some of them are starting to grow nicely now, and others are still sitting there looking stupid and not doing anything at all. My Twinkles haven't done very well this year at all, and I'm wondering whether it's too bright for them. You know, I said there would be a period of adjustment around here where, you know, things... I mean, it might be that next year I'm going to have to put a layer of shade netting over the whole roof and actually dull this down a bit in here. It is incredibly... I mean, I tried it with the camera. You know, the camera, you know, you set the speed and half press it and it will show you the aperture it's going to use, which is how much light it thinks it needs to let in to get a good exposure. And the meter in here is almost identical to outside. So it's like these plants are actually outside. Not in sun obviously, but outside. And that's very bright light. You know, some of these, you know, shady orchids, you know, things like the Miltoniopsis and stuff. So I think we might be having to dull this down a little bit next year perhaps. Now obviously I can't fix anything to the roof, that can't be done. So what I did with this was I tied some string onto it, hooked it over the roof and tied it to some rocks. So, you know, obviously the wind blows it about, but it would have to lift the rock up to take it off the roof. So I have a way of fixing shade netting to the roof without fixing anything on the roof. Oh, you want to go out? Come on then. No, you don't want to go out. You shout at me. Cheeky monkey. He's got food, he's got water. He has access to go out if he wants. He's just being a nuisance. That's because I had a visitor. There's somebody strange in the house. He keeps walking round looking to see if they're still there. Go back to sleep, cat. Yeah, so that'll do. So it's just an update on the weekend really. And the fact that, as I said, I got a black mark for the garden, which is annoying because, as I said, half of the mess out there is not mine. In fact, none of the mess is mine. The mess has all been left behind. That's not my mess. Now, okay, I haven't kept all the bushes and trees tidy, but there was logic behind that, which I still think was sound, is to let everything grow, see how vigorous things are, and then next year I'll know, right, that needs banging back hard and will probably need doing a couple more times during the year, or it will be at the top of the tree again, like that wisteria. And now I know, I've had a season, I know what's here, I know what grows fast, I know what needs taking right back, and other things that just need a gentle trim, just to keep them tidy. So, yes, I might make a start on everything at what I call ground level. Everything that I don't need to get the steps out for. I could get that done, and then I could perhaps take a couple of photos and send it off to the lady at the agency and just sort of say, I've made a start, just to show willing, I suppose. But, the biggest thing is getting the staging sorted out and getting the bonsai displayed nicely so that they look like part of the garden rather than just bits scattered around all over the place. They will look a lot better. And I found an orchid society that I am happy to go to, and it's a fair drive. It's over Lynn's Way. It is a fair drive actually, but the one that's nearer, the nearest, is a slow road, and come winter time, you know, dark, possibly icy, that's not a good journey, and it takes as long as it does to do the longer journey because it's a slow road, little A road, twisty turny, villages, you know, down to 30 all the time with cameras, so it's not a good journey, that one, so I excluded that one. The only other choice was one that, the one I'm going to join, the guy that I spoke to, well the guys, there were 4 of them I chatted to, they were sat down near their display sort of thing, I chatted to them, and one of them was also the chairman of the other one, and he openly admitted that that one's not doing very well. He said, we've only got about 20 members, and they never all turn up together. So sometimes we'll have a meeting and there's like a dozen people there. He said it's not very busy. Whereas the one I'm going to join is still pretty good. It's still up and running. It's still got a good membership and everything. And chatting to those guys, they were a laugh. They were people I can get on with. So there's also somebody from the Orchid Society that's a member of that Bonsai Society. So, I'll know somebody quite well when I get there. So that's the last Friday of the month. So I shall, and it's an appraisal stroke workshop this time round. So it's based on people bringing some trees in to work on, and also bringing possibly some trees in to ask opinions of the well, we call them experts. They probably are. They've probably been doing it 40, 50 years. To ask opinions on, how is this tree going? What would your advice be for next year? Is there anything I need to do to change the shape of it? Any ways I can improve it? So it's an appraisal type thing. So I may well take a couple of trees in, get them shot to pieces, and we'll see how we go. So that's it for today. I can already feel that my legs are starting to go, my eyelids are going, and that's before I've drunk the wine. Behave. I'm sure some people think I stand here and I've already drunk half the glass. This glass holds half a bottle. If it was up to there, that's half a bottle of wine in there. It's a big glass. You could keep goldfish in that, it's so big. So that's how much I put in. That's where it is. I've had one mouthful out of it at the beginning. I'll have another one now. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that for today. And I'll do another Project Orchids this week, because there's 3 to do, and September's going to disappear quite quickly. It's racing along as it is. So yes, I'll do another one of those later in the week. And what else I'm going to do this week, at the moment, I don't know. It'll be a surprise. So thanks for dropping by. If you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so, and do the old thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. And for those of you who are relatively new, you won't have heard me harping on about the Bonsai channel. There's a link to it in the description, but it's basically Roger's Bonsai with the apostrophe S. You can't miss it. If you put it in the search thing, it will come up. And I need as many people who are prepared to go across to that channel and subscribe as I can possibly get. Now, I always put the proviso, you've come to an orchid channel. You may not have any interest in bonsai whatsoever. That doesn't worry me. But if you go across to the channel and subscribe, you don't ever have to go there again if you don't want to. I just need those numbers up, if at all possible. And lots of people have gone over from this channel and done that, and it's greatly appreciated. So yes, if you're relatively new and you haven't heard that bit of speak before, the idea is to pop across to the Bonsai channel. You don't have to watch any videos, you don't have to do anything other than subscribe. And like I said, if you don't switch notifications on, you won't even know you've done it, and you never have to go back again if you don't want to. But I've already had a couple of orchid people that have got some bonsai trees, because it sparked the interest. So anyway, that's the Bonsai channel. So I'm desperate to get subscriber numbers up over there if at all possible. Again, if you're not subscribed to this channel, it'd be nice if you did so. My subscribers on this channel slowly but surely plod away, because we're up past the 13,000 now, and over the last week or so it's got to 13,100. This channel creeps along nicely. There's no rushing, no whooshing uphill and all that sort of thing. It's not going to do that. It's not that sort of channel. But it ticks along nicely, and I get some new subscribers. Thank you for those that have done that. Although the other cat's down here now. Right, so I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by, and we'll get some proper orchid stuff done later in the week. Have a look at stuff. One of the things I want to do is look at the resting dendrobiums as a set, and pull them to pieces basically, because they've all grown oddly this year, so that might be of interest to people. Those that rest in the winter. Now virtually every dendrobium I've got is classed as drier in winter, but there are those that need the distinct rest, or they either don't bloom at all or they don't bloom as well. And I'll just pop this in a bit at the end. Somebody left me a comment about a long cane resting type dendrobium. What was it? Parishii. Now that's not one that needs to chill down, but it does need the winter rest, and it does need the brighter light. It grows, it's deciduous forest mainly, jobby, so it's got shade cover during the summer months when the leaf cover's there, and then everything brightens up in autumn when the leaves fall. So it needs a brighter, drier winter, because the rains have finished for the season, so it's a drier period, but it's not that much cooler. It's not one that has to cool down like some of them do. But it does need an increase in light, and he, she or it was saying, I've forgotten who it was now, that basically last year they had no problems with that orchid at all. It started its new growth in the spring, completed them by the autumn, and went into its winter rest. This year it's got mature canes in the middle of summer, and now it's started new growths towards the end of summer as we head towards autumn. And it was like, what am I supposed to do now? If I rest it, I'll possibly lose these new growths that are starting late. If I don't rest it, I might not get the blooms. You know, so it's like a quandary. And quite honestly, I can say quite safely, a lot of people I've spoken to have said this has been a funny year. And that's basically long dry periods with heat. Now, you might think, well, if it's in a greenhouse with shade netting, what difference does it make? The difference it makes is every day is a full day of sunshine with heat. Now, under normal circumstances in this country, you'd probably get, for every 3 days like that, you'd get a dull day or a day of rain. And we didn't get that. We had long periods without those dull days. So it was bright all the time. And we had quite a cold spring, so things started growing late. So it's been a funny old year. So all I can say is go with your instinct. I've always said if an orchid wants to grow, then help it. Don't try and stop it. And if you've got new growths coming out, like I have in places that I could do without, basically I will try and keep them growing. And I might do a happy medium, so dryish in winter, but not as dry as perhaps I would have done if there hadn't been any new growths. If you don't feed and water new growths on an orchid like that, they will still carry on growing, not as strong as perhaps they should be, but the way they will carry on growing is they will take the reserves out of the rest of the plant. So if you stop and think about it, if you don't help the new growths, they will take their energy from the rest of that plant. How much of that energy will be left for the blooms in the spring? Yeah? You're depleting the energy, because basically the plant should have finished. So it doesn't need any energy till it tries to push the blooms out in the spring. So it's a conundrum. What do you do? You just have to wing it, basically. No proper answer for it. I mean, I've given you the fors and againsts. You could take those new growths off and say, right, you're not growing. I'm not having you draining the energy of the plant. I need to rest this. I'm going to do that and sacrifice the new growths. That's another option. But there's lots of options, but you have to make your own decision, basically. And if I had to make decisions like that, I'd be doing it at plant level. Not a generic decision for the whole grow room, it'll be at plant level. So, yeah, but it has been a funny growing year this year. Things have started late, some things have stalled badly. Well, with me, that's partly due to the move, I suspect, and the changing conditions, you know, so getting used to it and acclimatising and all that. But yeah, it's been a funny old year. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Enough of this waffle.